What does Joseph Barry and Tahlia have in common? And where's this little town of Barrydale? Let's go find out. Hey everyone, Distiller Greyling here, one of your favorite home and hobby distillers. Today is not a how-to video, it's just a part of our story and our experiences that we go through. So me and my wife has been married for 17 years and we just now recently in September had our wedding anniversary. So we decided to go to the little town of Montagu. It's about 2 hours and 15 minutes drive from here in Strand. And we decided to stay over there 2 nights. We stayed at the lovely The Nest clear glass tree cabin. Oh, what a lovely experience and a beautiful setting. So you enter the area and it's like a big tree, and underneath this big tree there's the bath that's completely outdoors. You also got a nice wooden deck where you will have a little like a seating area with a table. We played some board games or Uno and Rummy Cup there, and then you have the clear glass cabin that we spent the night in. Very cool. So the whole dome structure is completely transparent, so when you lie in bed at night you look up and you can see the trees, and even when you take a shower you can actually see what's going on outside. So it was very cool, very interesting, a very lovely setting. So just thank you for The Nest for accommodating us. It was a very lovely experience. So while we were there in Montagu, I decided, let me check what local craft distilleries there are. And we got 4. The first one didn't respond back, so I decided it's okay. A second one, we were actually at the door, but unfortunately the distiller and farm owner was not available. And so we also didn't visit that distillery. So that left us with 2 others that was near. So we decided to go to Barrydale. It's about a 40-minute drive from where we stayed. And there we first went to the Joseph Barry Distillery. Now, at first we drove into the incorrect area, almost like the back door where there's deliveries, I would say, maybe or maybe not. And it felt like a ghost distillery, like nothing was going on. I decided to park the car and started walking around, knocking on any doors. Everything was locked. Walk around the whole distillery, big building, set off an alarm, but still nothing. Then it was like a river a little bit far away, and I decided, let me just go check what's happening on the river. But it's like a little bit of a plateau that heads up, and I was next to the plateau more to the bottom. And as I walked, I could see there was big doors, but I see they were also locked. And as I walk all the way to the river and I look to my left, I saw that there's some open doors. So then I started to walk back up gets a car, and then we drove around, and then we saw, actually no, there's the main entrance showing tastings this way. So we stopped there under the trees, and then we actually entered into the old barrel house that has been converted, but it's a lovely setting. So immediately when we walked in, we were met by Emerentia. That was part of the Barrydale hand weavers. It's one of only 2 hand weavers still left in South Africa, and that's where they weave all of these type of material with 100% cotton on site. They actually use part of the distillery to do the weave machines. They've got a few there, and they've got this lovely showroom that's very pretty. They've got a lot of products there that you can buy. It was very nice, and Emerentia shared a lot of stories and explaining of how the things are made, so it's very lovely meeting her as well. Then we moved over to the tasting room where the distillery is, and we met the Adrian. He's got a lot of years experience. He's been working more than 16 years for the Joseph Barry Distillery. So it was very nice speaking to him. I did a tasting, he explained all the products, so it was very nice, and he's got some lovely stories about the rich history of Barrydale, of Joseph Barry, as well as some interesting stories about the distillery as well. So as part of my distillery visits, I want to always touch on 5 points. So my 5 points will be is what is in the name, what do they craft, how is it made, something interesting about the distillery, and what does the future hold for them. So if we go back to Joseph Barry Distillery, so the name Joseph Barry comes from, or Joseph Barry Distillery comes from Joseph Barry himself. He came to the Cape Colony in 1817, was a very big entrepreneur, established a lot of trade routes, and around 1846 he just started with Klein Karoo brandy, and was very successful with that. Now the whole Barry family continued into Barrydale, and that's also where the name Barrydale comes from. It's from this whole Barry family that the name originated from. So then Joseph Barry Distillery started in 1941, and then because of the rich history and heritage of the Barry family, they decided to go with Joseph Barry Distillery as a name to honor Joseph Barry and his love for brandy making, or wine and brandy making. All right, so that's in the name. So what does Joseph Barry Distillery have for us? So they've got 4 products, well, probably more, but 4 that I taste. They had the VSK brandy, the VSOP K brandy, the XOK brandy, and the Muscat K brandy. So obviously your VS is a 3-year brandy, your VSOP was about a 5-year, and then your XO was a 10-year. The XO brandy has won quite a numerous awards from the past, even till today as well. And then lastly, we've got this little guy. That's one, the Muscat K brandy. So it's made from 100% muscadel grapes. It's a very sweeter grape, and it's also then aged for 3 to 5 years in French oak barrels. Gives it a very nice, sweet, almost like a fruity type of taste. I really enjoyed it, and that's why I ended up buying 1 bottle for myself to keep part of my collection, and I will always remember all the stories that's there. All right, third thing is, how do they craft their spirits? So very interesting. The Barrydale area has got a lot of grapes, so they actually collect the grapes from local and around Barrydale itself. The Joseph Barry Distillery even has got some wind vineyards that's their own. So then they would make crush the grapes on site, make the wine on site, and then after a while, then they would start the distilling process. So they've got 10 1,000 liter distilling pots that they first make the low wines. After the low wines, they would then redistill to make their brandy product. They distill to a minimum of about 74% ABV, and then they run the process through. It's quite interesting to see the more larger scale industry, because even a craft distillery might everything fit on this table, but that was quite a big room. You can see the 10 boilers, and then it would go up to the second story where the condensers are, and I think it was the third story that we were standing, where you would see the tables where each pot will have its own type of parrot or capturing pot or capturing facility where you can measure the alcohol, and even then all of them flow together to one big chamber where you can also then test. So they really keep quality regulated. They also then have a 3-story continuous column still where they would make the A-proof spirits or a high purity product that we'll use for blending purposes. So it was also very nice to see that one as well. All right, then yes, A-proof spirits. Then number 4, something interesting about the distillery. All right, so the distillery itself has changed hands over the years, and at one stage it almost closed down. So currently actually the whole distillery itself is not operational anymore, even though they do sell products, and they still got a lot of products or barrels that's still stored that they can then obviously, they have to 5 and 10 years especially, they have to let it age, and then they can cast it out and bottle it and then sell it. So as it was changing hands, there was a stage where about 120 barrels got missing. From the records it showed, but no one could find it on the premises. So Oudemullen is now the recent owners of the Joseph Barry Distillery, and they kind of started an investigation to find out where is this barrels, and then they actually found it on site, locked away in one part of the barrel house. And some of the barrels were aged between 15 to 18 years, and some of them had no labels or no age on it, so they actually sent it for lab tests, and some of them showed it could have been more than 20 years old. So that's very interesting. Now, one of these barrels were actually bottled last year and sold for a very hefty price, and there is rumors that they might even do it this year again, to take one of those barrels out, bottle it, and then start selling it. So it might be a very special collector's item that you will have there. All right, so last one is, what do the future hold for Joseph Barry Distillery? So with Oudemullen being the recent owners, they are actually seeing to see if they can actually reignite the distillery again, get the stalls up and running again. There's some few maintenance that's needed. There was some theft on some of the copper parts as well. So they will have to do a little bit of research to see, will it be viable? And I think for the history around the whole Joseph Barry Distillery, it would be a very great option to really do a revamp of the distillery itself. So with the distillery not being active, like I said, a portion of the old distillery building, it's now being used by the weavers. So at least there's still a bit of activity going on. So definitely worth the visit. Adrian was a very informative, exceptional experience, and told us all these lovely stories. Definitely worth a visit. Our second stop was at the Tahlia Farm Distillery. So as you enter the farm, you are greeted by these fields of prickly pears on either side of you. Very interesting, very Karoo setting, very nice. Then as you stop and you enter into the tasting room, it's very clean, very neat, beautiful setting, and you've got these rows of small copper stalls standing. That's part of the gin school, so it really looks very inviting, very nice. So the name Tahlia, so Tahlia is owned by husband and wife, Andries and Alicia Berger, and then the name Tahlia is also a tribute to the wife, Alicia. So it really gives you a nice idea that a husband and wife can really pair together and open up a distillery and also open up this farm. So it's very special. Products that they make, they actually got quite a few products. It's very interesting. They use this prickly pear. So they've got the cactus fruit gin, a cactus leaf gin, 2 figs gin, where they would actually take the prickly pear fruit as well as a green fig, and then actually combine those two tastes to make a gin. Very nice. Then they've got this little guy, the barrel aged gin. I really like this one part of my tasting. So they make it from the prickly pear fruit, the gin itself, and then they age it for 7 months in pre-used barrels to give it a little bit of a oaky, casty taste. Very nice. I really enjoyed this one. So also got it for my collection. They also got a cactus vodka, a prickly pear wine, and then they've got a non-alcoholic gin range. That's very special. So when Andrew's wife, Alicia, she was diagnosed with cancer, and then not drinking alcohol, Andres decided he wants to make a non-alcoholic range to almost honor her and the experience he's going through of having cancer. So they made 3 non-alcoholic gins. They've got the Pupa, that's from the prickly pear leaf. They got the Morpheus, that's from the botanicals from the prickly pear fruit. And then they got the Papillon, that's from the prickly pear flower. I hope I pronounced them correctly, but you're more than welcome to go check it out on their website. And it was actually very nice. We really enjoyed it. I had the normal alcoholic gins and my wife had the non-alcoholic tastings. So it was actually very nice for me to taste the alcoholic ones and as well as the non-alcoholic ones. And I must say, for me, the Morpheus one on the non-alcoholic one was really tasty, and that was kind of the favorite for the day, except obviously for the barrel aged one, and that's how I have this one currently. All right, so how the products are made. Everything is handcrafted, pot distilled in small batches. They started the farm in 2018, and it was more about, they look at this dry Karoo setting environment and thought to themselves, what can they do to make a living? What can they make? What can they sell? And they settled on prickly pears. So the initial thought wasn't to open up a distillery. It was more just to make something. And they thought about the oil from the prickly pear, the fruit, the pits. And slowly but certain, they had a curiosity about the prickly pear leaf. And consulting with a family member, they actually started distilling. And then they discovered that this can actually work. So it's also dear to my heart, having that curiosity and experimenting to actually see what you can do, and then a lovely distillery is born out of that. So I really like that story and the way they actually decided to do something, try something, it worked, and now they're making it a successful business. All right, so something interesting about the farm. All right, so the farm really looks at self-sustainability and limiting waste. So they actually got other products as well. They're making oils, they're making soaps, and it's really nice to see that being in this Karoo environment where it's dry and you don't have the luxury of abundant water, to actually see how they can still reuse, incorporate and limit their waste and actually try to sell, make something else and then to sell that as well. So that is very nice to know. And then I did mention the gin school, so that's also something that's very interesting for me, is they do offer a gin school where you can book for friends and family or a small group, and you guys can actually come and make your own gin. And it's not about you have a bottle of alcohol and you put juniper berries in with some botanicals and you let it soak or seep and there you have a gin. No, you will actually distill it. They would give you that small still with your botanicals that you will mix. You will put it in the still, you'll have your condenser, you will get a high proof alcohol, you will distill it, infuse it, and then if you're a group, you can actually have like a small tasting and decide whose gin is the best, and that person will actually get a nice sticker to say that on that day in your group you had the best gin. So I think that's a very nice thing and a very nice way of celebrating the craft of gin, especially if you're in and around that area. All right, so definitely for me also worth the visit. So worth the visit worth taking. So what does the future hold for Tahlia Farm Distillery? Actually quite a lot. Andries, he actually spent some time and he came and stood there by me and my wife and had a long talk, sharing some of his stories and also some of the future plans. And I must say he's got some brilliant plans. You can really see the passion he has for the craft and what he wants to do. So I would say definitely look out for Tahlia Farm Distillery. There are going to be some interesting products that's going to come up, a whole range of different products, gins, and yes, very interesting. Also a rum that's coming, so that's also going to be very cool. So definitely Tahlia Farm Distillery will be definitely worth a visit. So that is my story for today. So definitely Montagu, Barrydale, worth a visit. We really enjoyed staying at the Nest Clear Glass Cabin, visiting Joseph Barry Distillery as well as Tahlia Farm Distillery, and also seeing the weavers at the Joseph Barry Distillery. That was also very nice. So hope you guys enjoyed it. Just the information session about our story and how we are progressing through this lovely country of ours. As always, remember to be awesome, to be kind, and be yourself. Cheers.